You know, in the shadows of old, forgotten temples, some warnings aren't just whispers, they're carved right into the stone. Today, we're diving into two legends that show us exactly what happens when those warnings get ignored and ancient evils are allowed to rise.
That was a desperate plea from a villager to his friend, a warning that was just dripping with generations of fear. But you know how it is. For some people, a warning like that isn't a red flag, it's an invitation. And as we're about to see, when you go knocking on the door of a sleeping evil, well, that's a fatal mistake.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll uncover the story of the Nishachar, an ancient evil that was woken up by some very modern arrogance. Then we're going to go even darker, into the tale of the Narapakshi, an evil that was deliberately created through pure deception. We'll see them rise, we'll see their reign of terror, and most importantly, we're going to figure out the secrets to their fall.
All right, our first story, it doesn't start with some big epic battle. Nope, it starts with a single foolish act. It's that classic story, right? Modern skepticism just crashes headfirst into ancient terror. We've got a tourist, he's got his camera, and he's totally convinced all this folklore is just, for show. He's about to learn a lesson, and it's one that's written in blood.
So what is the Nishachar exactly? Well, according to the source material, this isn't just some random demon, it's the actual damned soul of a treacherous king. His spirit got twisted into this Peshak form, which is basically a flesh-eating ghoul. He's been imprisoned inside a statue, and his rage has just been simmering for centuries. Dormant, yeah, but definitely not gone.
Just look at how fast this all goes down. Vedant's disbelief has an immediate and incredibly brutal consequence. He finds the temple, sees these protective threads on the door, and just writes them off as superstition. With one careless tug, he breaks the seal. That very night, the monster wakes up. And by the next morning, Vedant isn't a tourist anymore. He's a gruesome message hanging at the temple gates, a warning that their long-dormant nightmare is back.
With that seal broken, the Nishachar is totally unleashed. The story paints this absolutely chilling picture of a village just plunged into chaos. The creature starts hunting every single night, and the villagers who had kept the peace for generations with their rituals are now completely helpless. It's in the middle of all this that Vedant's friend Rohan realizes a terrible truth. He has to do what his friend didn't. He has to respect the threat and find a way to end it for good.
But here's the thing. This isn't a battle you win with brute force. A wise sadhu tells Rohan that beating the Nishachar requires a very specific, almost ritualistic journey. As you can see here, ancient evils play by ancient rules. To kill this thing, Rohan has to literally retrace its history, find a specific artifact from its past, and then exploit a weakness tied to a specific place. The key to its destruction is actually buried in its own origin story.
Okay, now we're going to turn to our second tale, which is a whole different kind of horror. See, the Nishachar was an old evil that was woken up. But the Narabakshi? Oh, this is way more twisted. It wasn't found, it was created. It wasn't unleashed by some accident, it was birthed through a terrifying, calculated act of deception.
On the surface, this looks like a simple village love story. Deepak, an orphan, falls for this sweet, gentle girl named Raksha. But it was all a monstrous lie. Raksha was just a mask for Lambari, a fanatical demon worshipper whose only goal was to find a husband she could use to conceive a child for her dark master.
I mean, can you even imagine the horror? Hearing those words from the person you love, the person you swore your life to. This is that moment when it all shatters for Deepak. Lambari drops the act and tells him the horrifying truth. Their life, their love, it was all just a setup for a demonic ritual. He wasn't a husband. He was just a tool for incubation.
And this is what was born from all that deception. The Narabashikshi, a name that literally means man-eater. It's described as this grotesque reptilian creature, and it wasn't born helpless. It was born ravenous. Its very first act is to kill and eat its mother's husband, Deepak. This is the rise of our second monster, a creature that needs to consume humanity just to survive and grow.
Just like with the Nishachar, the rise of this new evil doesn't go unnoticed. A mystic, an Agori Baba, sees the creature feeding in a graveyard and he instantly gets it. He understands the apocalyptic-level threat this thing poses. He knows that if the Narabakshi is allowed to grow up, it's going to become completely unstoppable.
So, the Agori confronts the creature. He's got this powerful sacred weapon, an artifact made from his own guru's bones. He strikes the Narabakshi, and nothing, absolutely nothing happens. The monster just laughs at him. And that failure is a huge lesson. What works on one evil is totally useless against another. The rulebook has been completely thrown out.
Then, in a vision, the Agori's guru reveals the secret. The monster's power isn't really its own. It's tied directly to its mother, Lambari. It's like a symbiotic link. To kill the child, you have to kill the parent first. So the Agori finds and strikes down Lambari. Instantly, the Narabakshi shrivels, becoming weak and helpless like a baby, and he's then able to destroy it easily.
Okay, so we've got two monsters, born from two different kinds of darkness, who both brought terror in their own unique ways. Now let's kind of put their stories side by side and see what they teach us about the nature of evil, and more importantly, how it gets defeated.
The difference is pretty stark when you look at it this way. The Nishachar was a historical threat, right? A ghost whose power was literally rooted in its own past, so its defeat required a journey back into that history. But the Narabakshi was a biological threat, a brand new thing whose power was tied to a living source. Its defeat required severing that unholy umbilical connection. Two totally different monsters and two totally different solutions.
And that leaves us with this final, really chilling thought. In these stories, the heroes found the key. They found the historical artifact, they found the biological link, just in the nick of time. But these are more than just stories. They're warnings. They force us to ask a much scarier question. What happens when an evil rises whose weakness we can't figure out? An evil whose rulebook we can't find, all while it just gets stronger and stronger. What happens then?